Good afternoon, everyone.
Since you're not here, I'll eat your share, okay?
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and begin the meeting? The chair is still in the Board of Supervisors meeting.
Oh,
Let's do roll call, please.
Okay. City of Daly City,
Glenn Sylvester present.
Town of Hillsborough, City of Pacifica,
Christine Bowles here.
City of San Bruno,
Rico Medina, and I'm obviously via remote for just cause due to an injury. There is nobody 18 years or older here. The staff has been notified, the body has been notified, all those procedures. So this is how you'll see me today. Marie also is at the Board of Supervisors meeting as the vice chair of Samtrans, so she is there too. So they're close by, they're just not there with you. So, but we'll go ahead and get started at least. And item 2, to see if we have any public comments, correspondence, or announcements, please.
Okay, public comment is reserved for persons wishing to address the Finance Committee on any Emergency Services Council related matters that are not otherwise on this meeting agenda. There are no comments.
Okay. Gee, I have a council meeting tonight. I hope it goes that well. Item 3, action to set agenda and approve the April 15th, 2025 meeting minutes. Any questions, discussions, or changes that need to be made?
Not sustainable at all. Having a quick look at the minutes.
Okay.
Cautious members of all the boards look at working together and the need to work across the region. Different writers.
Unless you have any questions, I can move to set the agenda and approve the minutes.
Glenn Sylvester, I'll be more than happy to second.
Motion and second, there being no public comments. We'll go ahead and all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimous, 3-0. Now we'll move on to item 4, which is an informational update and discussion regarding active procurements and agreements to the director.
Thank you. Council members, we have a couple of different active procurements that we're doing some negotiation with. One of them is the SFO contract. So this is money coming from SFO into the Emergency Services Council. It's about an approximate of 410K every year. And this is for emergency services that are provided. So this is the revenue coming in. So we're negotiating that contract right now. And I want to take any questions on that contract before I move on to the second contract, which will be the hazmat contract.
Conversations about
Is that about in line with previous contracts, or are we raising it a little bit with SFO?
We're trying.
Okay.
We're trying.
Okay.
Yeah. It's approximately been 410, give or take 10%. So we're trying to see what other mechanisms could be to even increase it a little bit.
I have that part of the conversation. I don't know.
The second contract is the contract for San Mateo Consolidated Fire Department for hazmat services for the entire city. So we are basically the body that oversees that contract, and the services are provided to each of the cities if there's a hazmat that occurs. And so that contract ends June of 2026. So we are in negotiation with San Mateo Consolidated Fire Department for the hazmat services. You know, I think we don't have any numbers yet. We don't have a settlement yet, but we are working on it. we wanted to let this body know because it's a short time frame. This contract will need to go to the Board of Supervisors as well. And so, given the short time frame, this is something that the Finance Committee may have to re-meet again to get blessings from if there are drastic changes.
How are you doing? Are you able to get all the information to substantiate any additional, what may be needed, foresight as to the future and to plan for it?
I think we are planning for it, and I think, there is definitely gonna be an increase. We're just trying to see what the increases are and how they relate to the work that's being done, as well, right? And so there's been some discussion about, internally about how the contract is structured and if we wanna structure it differently. The thing that we can't ignore are costs that are related to personnel, to having a fire engine, to having a fire station. The costs are going up for all of these things, and and I think those costs will be passed on to all of us as well.
Thank you.
I guess we had, not much time has gone past since our last meeting, but just looking at our past minutes. The idea of building partnerships and maybe donations from biotech and other corporations have been able to I know you have a lot on your plate right now. So.
I'm actually presenting at the at a biotech trade partnership tomorrow.
Oh.
And we've done that, and we've hosted an event here, and we've invited many private partners to come join us. So we've done the introductions both in person and now virtually as well. So we're building those bridges now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from colleagues or staff? Director, is that good then?
I think we're good.
Okay, thank you. Item 5 is the informational update and discussion regarding the current state of FEMA and potential impacts to SMCEM. Assistant Director.
Yeah, so we've spent a lot of time, trying to understand what the landscape looks like. We obviously know there's a lot of uncertainty around what's going to occur. And we don't have a looking glass to know how these will change. And so really what I want to take the time to do today is to lay out what we know. We're trying to stay on top of this to the greatest extent possible. FEMA does have a review council that we attend, and so that we can stay up to date. But there's a lot of uncertainty. And so sort of the main topics I'm going to go over today are what we know about funding, what we know about alert and warning, and kind of what we know about training. These are some areas that we have a little bit more clarity than we do in some other ones, but just keep in mind all of this is very much in flex, and they have the federal government has certainly made it clear that they want to change things around FEMA. Where they'll go, we don't know. So the first thing around funding, there's 3 sort of mechanisms for funding that we interact with when we deal with FEMA. First is around grants, which I'll touch on in just a little bit more. The second is around post-disaster recovery. I don't know that we'll have any clarity about what will occur with that. I think we'll need to get through this year's hurricane season and see how they work with disaster declarations, with recovery funding. I think there's a lot of open-ended questions there. There's not going to be much discussion on that today because we don't really have any answers. And then lastly is around training, which I'll touch on in a little bit. We have 3 grants, primary grants that run through here. The first is the Emergency Management Performance Grant. We were given our allocation for 25 recently. It's been in line with what we've seen previously. It's about $1,000 less. So we're confident that we will still get those monies. The previous year it was $253,000. This year's allotment is $252,000. And that comes into the department and allows us to do work not only here for DEM, but it does support trainings and other things to the operational area. And so we don't expect to see any dramatic increases to there. The other two funding sources are UASI, Urban Area Security Initiatives, and State Homeland Security Grant Program. I think with these, we're seeing the focus of what they want these spent on changing dramatically. And so it's more about, a focus on Homeland Security, border security, election security, cybersecurity. We don't know for sure, but I think that we can anticipate that there will be a reduction in some of these grants. The other thing that they're likely to do, these grants were previously provided with zero match. They have indicated that there will be a 25% match component. There also have been some indications that a portion of any of that money that we receive may need to go directly to border security. So it may be harder for us to actually get those. There's no clarity or certainty around what that will look like, but just recognize that those are two funding sources that we may or may not be able to utilize going forward, depending on that landscape.
And this funding benefits the entire operational area. So it benefits fire, law enforcement, EMS, health, public health, emergency management. There's also like smaller projects that some cities are even able to get because they're in line with whatever the national priority of that year is. And so there's some infrastructure work that's been done. There's been, getting of vehicles, hazmat vehicles, other things like that we collectively as the op area have put in for that are all at somewhat of a risk.
And the last grant I'll talk about is the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. We recently applied for that. Thank you, Councilmember Sylvester, for pointing that one out to us. And so that's going to fund our local hazard mitigation plan that should kick off shortly. We don't anticipate those funds will be impacted, but I think moving forward, there may be some impacts to the amount of dollars that are associated to that. And so that money is earmarked for plan updates specifically and to do mitigation projects and programs. And so it could have an impact for our ability to do work in those areas.
Brian, the UASI grants for San Mateo County EM specifically, how much of those UASI and Shish Gap were we getting in previous years?
So we were getting somewhere between 100,000 and 300,000, depending on what we got. Those we have to actually apply with specific projects. This year, I believe we had 200,000 to spend. We did put in for next year. I don't believe we're going to get any funding on that. We had a similar, I think it was around 300,000 for that. And so I think overall, the reduction, if we lose Shish Gap and UASI, will be about 5 to 10% of our total budget.
And do we use that on specific initiatives and then we
Yes.
just won't be able to move forward with those? So it's not ongoing operation.
It's not ongoing operational. It will impact special projects or special programs that we're trying to develop. This year's money was used to pay for additional time for LADRAs to support the all hazards evacuation plan.
Okay, thanks.
And how long is that funded through?
We have to spend that funding by the end of the calendar year, which we will do. And so then we can actually fund the contract for longer. I think we'll have support of that LADRAS platform through March or May of 2027. But we do need to use all of those funds prior to the end of the calendar year.
Do you see any strings to federal grant funding, are them forcing us to comply with ICE or any of that, or
I think
so
it
far?
remains to be seen. I think that could be very likely. I think they've indicated that they would want to do that. I just don't know how. I couldn't tell you the direction, but I think we should anticipate that.
And I can chime in a little bit. We have special little crew within the county attorney's office that is tasked with tracking all these new initiatives that are coming from the administration, but specifically they've been looking at things you need to endorse in order to be eligible for grants currently. So there's been some, federal administration work to say you're not eligible for you know, certain grants, and if you're a sanctuary jurisdiction, you're not eligible for certain grants if you engage in DEI work. And so the county has developed a process where if we get grants that have restrictions that concern us, we're redlining those prior to executing them, and actually we're sending them to the county executive, Mike Callaghy, who's gonna execute these himself. So it'll run through our county attorney, red line, take out things we're concerned about, and then the county executive will sign off. To the extent we have to apply for something through the ESC JPA, we'd probably have to come up with some sort of process to deal with this that's similar. But yeah, it's very current. You know,
Exactly,
issue.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard, like with the LA fires, or, I mean, is FEMA do we know if FEMA's putting in money for that now, or? I know it doesn't affect us, but.
So that occurred prior to this current administration, and so the disaster declaration would have gone in before that and was approved
Oh,
before
okay,
that, so I don't
okay.
know that.
So we
it's
don't
a
really
good
know what
example,
it means, yeah.
We have seen that multiple states have put in for disaster declarations, and it's been
I haven't.
hit or miss, but in the timing of it, but you know, they are declaring disasters.
Okay.
Or collaborative. By us,
The second main area that we're tracking is alert and warning. So the integrated public alert and warning system, so the emergency alert system, which is radio and broadcast television, wireless emergency alerts, which you would think of like an Amber Alert that comes to your phone, and also the NOAA weather radios are all run through FEMA's backbone. That is how the systems operate. They need to be operated through FEMA. And so looking at that, if they decide to make major cuts in this area, it could impact our ability to do these iPause level alerts. It wouldn't impact the subscription portion of SMC Alert, so we would still be able to send text and voice and emails through that. But it would impact some other areas that are higher level alerts, you know, wireless emergency alert. We just draw an area and it sends alerts to every cell phone that's within that. So this is something we're tracking very closely. We have no indication that there could be impacted at this time, but obviously if it is, that would have a tremendous impact on our ability to communicate with the public during emergencies and disasters. And then the last main area is around training. You know, there's been a lot of talk about what's happening at the National Fire Academy, or EMI, which is the instructional portion of FEMA. But that's really just a small subset of it. A lot of the training that we take is actually funded through the federal government. Texas A&M and then several other universities have a consortium where they offer free classes. You know, they'll bring people out. And then CSTI, which is the instructional wing of Cal OES. Most of the funding that it actually puts on those trainings comes from the EMPG, or the Emergency Management Performance Grant. And this doesn't just impact emergency management. This will have impacts for fire, for law, for EMS, and many more. So this is an area that we're certainly concerned about. We would have to find other mechanisms or other revenue streams, or figure out a way to get creative and provide trainings in different platforms in different ways. But we have seen impacts here, and I would anticipate that those could potentially continue. Really, we're looking at this as an opportunity to get creative. How can we look for new pathways? How can we come together as groups in this space and find new ways to do it? Can we develop new pathways to deliver alert and warning? Are there new tools that are out there that we can do? Can we develop some of our own trainings, and maybe training into different format that we can not only use here, but we could potentially sell with or share with the cities, towns, and special districts in the county. And so there's a lot of uncertainty. We're monitoring it closely, but we just want to paint, you know, here's the picture of the landscape as we see it.
With SFO, or 6% without, the 8% is.
When do you think we might know more?
I think it's very dynamic, and I don't even know that when we know more, that will be the final picture that we know. So we track this very closely. You know, we try to have updated weekly understandings of what the landscape looks like. But
You guys are still gonna go. What I am gonna say is.
I suspect there may be some greater understanding after this year's hurricane season. If there's a bunch of major hurricanes, we'll understand that recovery and disaster proclamation portion. But what's gonna happen with grants and what's gonna happen with the trainings, I'm not as clear. And then around iPods, I think it's even less uncertain,
We're asking.
because they may not even understand that these two things are connected.
I do intend to talk to Supervisor here about bringing the issue back to our board to just for a vote. on-
Yeah, I'd like to make a couple of comments if
I
I
want that to be
may.
clear to the author.
Thank you so much for what I've heard. It's good to be on the safe side and to bring these items up just to be aware and what to watch out for. Obviously, we all know that there's no love lost between California and the current administration. And Christine, I'm glad you brought up the one issue, which I'm about to make mention, because as soon as you started, that's the first thing I focused on was the LA fires. And now there's been stories going around as to, you know, perhaps whose fault is it because we didn't get water from up north to go down south? Was it because of lack of personnel? There's so many things out there, but what we need, I feel, to concentrate on, and I think you're not gonna have a problem, especially if you talk about sanctuary cities. Let's just put that aside. Whether you're a sanctuary city or not, this is what I really feel. Law enforcement is going to play an integral part and part of this grant funding. Hazard mitigation is also going to play a part. That has nothing, I feel, but you know, I could be off, that whether you're a sanctuary city or not, you need to come up with a plan for hazard mitigation. That's a given. Your wireless communication, being able to, whether you're a sanctuary city or not, to be denied funding because you're a sanctuary city, I don't think that's really gonna, this is just my thoughts, it's really gonna come into play there. So, how you apply for these grants will also make a difference as to how you word it. And I'm sure you know that, and there's certain types of language that they would like to see. Like applying for a 501c3, you say you're going to serve the entire community, then just a small portion. So I'm sure you folks are the expert in that area, but I strongly believe it has anything to do with crime, getting information out to the community, whether it's wireless, whether it's text messages and etc., whether it's hazard mitigation. So if I'm talking about LA fires, do we have a problem in San Mateo that says, oh, you know what? We knew about a water shortage or the accessibility to water. I mean, I've even asked my city manager up in the hills to have water resources to get up to the top of the hill. So I think that these are things we need to look into and make sure that we have a plan and we plan accordingly. I really feel that really not, it's not as bad as folks think it's going to be. That's just my thoughts.
I 100% agree. I would like to make one small point on the hazard mitigation point.
Yes.
I fundamentally agree with you. I think it's super important. It's one of the things that I'm most passionate about. I think that I want to recognize that the money that funds that hazard mitigation grant program is directly tied to disaster declarations. So when they declare a disaster, a certain percentage, depending on the state, it's either 15 or 20% of that money is set aside, and that's what pays for the hazard mitigation grant program. So if they're not declaring disasters, that fund is not being funded. So that would be my concern there. But I truly believe that there will be an appetite to continue this work, and that I hope that it would.
You know, when you say the right words and with you along with the director, I have no, because I just put that information out at one of our meetings and I wonder whatever became of it. You have verified and you have validated that I'm sure you're doing your best to make sure that all rocks are turned over to see what's underneath it and what can we get. So keep up the great work.
Bye, sir.
We do have a few questions for you all to help the more conversation, so it can help us give better direction.
Yeah, so I think from a policy standpoint, which I think is important, some of the things to keep in mind are how do we optimize, diversify, and stabilize funding streams to protect essential emergency management functions if these federal supports narrow? So that's one of the avenues that we can be looking at. Second is what local standards should we?
But I think we're really looking to hear from you. Like, what are your thoughts on this? Like, last time biotech was brought in, we can implement, we can try. And we are making inroads with the private sector now. So are there any other thoughts? Because we really want to take this brain trust and really do the work that you all recommend.
I can think of one,
Yes.
which was a learning experience when we went through to get the contract. You remember with fire?
Mhm.
And we did not include the various fire chiefs. And we had to wait till you folks got together and got them all together. And oh yeah, made a couple of changes. I think that continued collaboration, because every city is unique and they have their own needs. And I'm glad you asked that question. And what's happening in Pacifica could be entirely different than Daly City, even though we're both on the same boundary line. But I'll tell you what, East Palo Alto has different needs.
Yeah.
And so this is great. I'm glad you asked that. So continued collaboration is the key, like we did with the fire. That was held up because the fire chiefs wanted to chime in on the new policy. So that's number one.
Absolutely, and a really good lesson learned. So what we have
Yeah.
implemented post that is the Emergency Management Partnership Initiative, which
Yes.
is, there's many phases to it. We've implemented phase one, which is basically that a representative from the fire chief organization, a representative from the police chief's organization, and I meet monthly at minimum to discuss all of our priorities. They give us input. We are coordinating, even as down to tactically as like messaging, right? Like active shooter messaging, we're coordinating that. And so it's just nice to have a succinct meeting every month to gather information, gain input, and continue that. That's phase one. Phase two we will be assigning internally partners from our department, each city having a partner. So not a liaison, you have a partner here at San Mateo County EM. If you ever need to reach out, if you have specific issues with utilities or specific issues with the seawall. So that is phase two. We're hoping to implement that probably early next year. So thank you for that.
Well, I'm smiling. I'll make this the last thing.
No.
Because you learn from experience. And I remember I brought up one issue and boy, basically, I was torn down, but a few months elapsed and we needed them. It was the face masks, and then the fires came about. And then, when I brought it before the committee, I said, where can we store them? Where can we put them? Where can we get access to them? And then unfortunately, when the fires came about, and but I'm happy. I think we got a good crew here, and we got good members of the board, especially on. Yes, so I'm happy. I mean, I go through withdrawal every time I leave out of one of these meetings. I love you all so much. He said, "Who is this guy?"
I got a couple of questions, suggestions, possibly. So Pacifica joined a couple of lawsuits that were with San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. I don't know if San Mateo County has joined those as well to protect funding under sanctuary city law, and there was a second one that we joined. So
Yeah,
we're not,
We have.
you have, okay,
Yeah.
right, so.
Yeah, we're amicus on like a bunch.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that because,
It's
yeah, I
okay.
think
Yeah.
whoever sued the last time won against the Trump administration, right? So we have to be there to be in line to make sure they can't take that money away. And then we had talked about maybe presentations at different cities and I'm thinking like just kind of giving everybody like maybe a little bit more of a more dire heads up and like we all have, or I assume we all have, disaster accounting funds and, to just kind of be aware that we might need those, right? So be careful how you spend them because I see that we spend them on a lot of deferred maintenance kinds of things and like, I don't even really know, like, what is a good amount for a city to have in case of a big emergency? And so educating us and knowing that these other funds might not come at all or come so quickly, that we need to have a bit more of a buffer.
I mean, as far as, we, a lot of us, not all of us, but we have reserves based on a percent that's recommended and maybe reviewed periodically, with finance and the manager. I know, we keep, I think it's a line item, it's 3 million. And this is just for emergency. We have other reserves too, but and that goes way back to PG&E days. We got some money for trying to get the staffing component. So I just think having the reality of the reserves and having monies, like you said, in case we find ourselves in a situation with the federal government that might make it worse for us.
Many other riders who have that choice would abandon BART, Caltrain, and the bus. San Francisco riders going to the airport.
We're having trouble getting paid back.
Or North County.
I should, for some, things on Beach Boulevard, some year, worse than the last year or two that we were expecting OES funds and having. I don't know the exact details, but things are taking longer, right?
Yeah. Things are taking longer and there's more and more requests. For example, we got a request asking about, where did we get the sand in the sandbags?
Where did the sand come out of the ground?
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
just stupid things to delay
Yeah.
it, basically,
Yeah. and
Don't worry, I found
it. Bravo.
Your backyard.
So the second area I think we'd like to discuss is a question. What local standards should we adopt now to align with federal alerting and communication expectation in case mandates tighten around them?
Well, I just want to make a couple points on,
I think you better say that one more time.
What local standards should we adopt now to align with federal alerting and communications expectations in case mandates tighten? So if we have some changes around the way we are allowed to provide alert and warning,
power.
dramatically shape and shift how these things are put out.
What areas, what could change or hypothetical? Maybe give an example of what you're concerned about where the change would be.
I think the concern would be around the integrated public alert and warning system, specifically around WIA, in that that's a small program that exists within FEMA. And should they decide to cut those funds, not recognizing the true value of that program, then we lose the tool to provide wireless emergency alerts, which could substantially impact our ability to communicate with the public during emergencies and disasters.
And in the example that you just gave, which I appreciate, that's a good one. Wouldn't we want to just make it on a county? We'd have to pick something up apparently, or let it go. And that the county, maybe we have a backup plan for the county to act as a whole rather than every community, city or town reinventing the wheel, coming up with that practice or policy. But it would take some funding, right? I mean, if it went away January 1, how long would it take? What kind of costs are we looking? Do we have to implement some kind of a county policy?
I think doing it countywide would be a smart way to do it for consistency, clarity, and ability to have a unified messaging system. In terms of cost, I think we would need to look into that and get back to you, but I think those are all good points and valid things that we can do.
I think the bottom line is if you don't.
I think you said the magic word, unified. I was thinking about uniformity. When you respond to a disaster, and when you, especially if you have mutual aid where folks come from all over the place, how are you going to communicate with each other? You should have uniformity If you're fire, you're on this channel. If you're in police, you're on this channel. Then you have a go-between, or everybody switches to one channel who's at the particular area. We need to understand the policy in the case of mutual aid and first responders to scenes of disasters. What is the policy on that? I mean, sometimes, especially Cal Fire, cities will send fire personnel up and out of their county, and that costs money. And I quite don't understand, how do we get that money back? You- So uniformity, I think is a top priority. Communications, again, I made mention about that before. The people, the community has to be able to get these notifications, and the infrastructure that we have to deliver those communications. Is there any deferred maintenance on it, or what's gonna happen to them later on in the future? Especially with the advent of new technology, analog rather, optic, and do we have any dead, there's a term, is it dead fiber? In other words, infrastructure underground to pull optic cables through, which optics send information over at the speed of light, which is 186,000 miles per second, and that's much better than over POTS, which we've moved away from, plain old telephone system. So technology is on the increase, but those are the major ones: uniformity and communications at a minimum, I feel.
Are you concerned about communication to emergency personnel or to the public at large, or both?
Well, I think, our primary function would be to the public, and then that other communication would take place between fire, law, EMS. Which obviously we're a part of, but they're the ones that are using it more frequently, and so they would have the primary concern. I think one of the things that's gonna benefit our region in that area is that we have the Super Bowl coming up in February of next year, and then FIFA, that's both of those occurring in Santa Clara County. And so there is a lot of work recognizing that there's gonna be a lot of different people coming in. And so a lot of those mutual aid agreements are actually being updated because of that. So I have greater confidence than I did in that before, Councilman Sylvester. I'm not on the specific communications working group, but I do take part in the emergency management working group, and we had a presentation from the communications subcommittee yesterday. And they've done a lot of work standardizing things and with MOUs and around understanding dead space and how do we communicate. And so I think our region as a whole is going to benefit greatly from that.
And then internally, at the county level, we are starting the large events, a working group where we're bringing law, fire, EMS, PIOs, public safety dispatch, everyone to the table, so everyone knows what their role is gonna be. And the hope is that this group will continue past Super Bowl 60 and FIFA, so we have a joint collaboration for, other things that may be, like whether it's protests, so there's this continued effort to get us all in the same space. We'll still need, EMS to do their thing or PSC to do their thing, but at least now we're saying, this is our thing, this is our thing, where do we connect and create bridges? So that group will be starting in September.
That sounds great. And then for the public, I mean, we have the SMC alert, and otherwise it's a federal system to be able to text everyone. Is that
Yeah, so the wireless emergency alerts, like an Amber Alert or like the tsunami warning that we got in December of last year, that is built off the iPod system, which is a federal system. Everything has to run through an organization that is run by FEMA. Additionally, the backup that is able to send that is done through the PBS satellites, so PBS Warren. And so if there is a reduction in funding to PBS, we could actually lose the secondary backup.
Strongly that
to be
San
able to send
Mateo
those
should be
messages.
in this measure and our region and our regional transit system.
I would tell you. That's
Well,
that's
and I
scary.
think that's the reality, is that there is no easy solutions to this, and that's why we want to work on having these conversations and at our policy level.
Yeah.
Here are the things that we hope the group can consider.
And is it, I mean, obviously it's helpful if we get more people with SMC alerts, so. Or, because there, yeah, there's no way that we can override that and just use that system, getting people's numbers out.
Caltrain.
What do you do for tourists?
You've
Yeah,
heard
right.
from,
So all
a
of these
number of
things,
people who
yeah,
use and
that
support
are
transit.
problems.
People have been, coming to.
And I think the expectations of the community
month
is
after
very
month after
different
month,
than
talking about how people
um,
use a variety
what
of
we
different,
can provide if something like that were to go away, right? So the expectations of the community is that they're getting notified.
maintain this for,
If that system goes away, then
very much depend
you
on
don't have a
transit
bridge to
and have
notification. And so
coordination
these are things we're thinking about, and we're hoping that you all also think about it so we can,
and so on.
you know,
I'm
create-
just wondering at the state level, I mean, obviously other counties are
yeah.
maybe having these thoughts.
What the benefits.
We are discussing these at the
are,
emergency
serving the county.
director level for the Bay Area. We meet with them monthly.
Proposal to strengthen accountability. Accountability is important, but unilateral
You
funding.
said one word earlier. Start with the letter T. I could have misheard it. Did you say tourists?
Tourists,
You
yeah.
did say that.
Yeah.
Well, that just came up, I just came up with another idea. What kind of communications do we give to tourists coming into San Francisco?
So we couldn't actually alert to the city of San Francisco. We would need to work in partnership with them, but if we can alert tourists through the wireless emergency alerts within the geographic region of San Mateo County. And so we can actually send messages to cell phones that are in any geographic area that are within the county.
Okay.
We can't extend past the county.
No, okay, no, what I'm getting at is when you travel, and then as you're coming down the escalator for your baggage, what do you see first? Welcome to San Francisco, and you see a picture of the mayor or basically any city you go to. And if you're going to another state, welcome to Arkansas, for instance. I mean, I know it's a blind state, but that's all you see. Scan this QR code for additional information such as emergency services, or if you're interested in text alerts while you're here, you can call this number. I mean, you can have like a FAQ of some sort just by scanning the QR code that provides resources as to tourists coming
You
in.
have to grab them. Afraid of an earthquake?
Yeah. Yeah, in cases of an earthquake, in cases of a hurricane. I mean, it's just something, it shows that you're thinking outside the box. So not only do we alert the community, but we do alert
It's a fantastic idea, because through that QR code, we could even put them potentially on a temporary list that would allow us to alert them through our SMC alert systems. That's a brilliant idea.
Interesting. If that ever comes to fruition, I hope I'm still around.
Well, and if you're talking to SFO about other things, right? you can
Yeah.
Bring that to
That
the.
one will not.
I might even ask SFO, because you're talking to them, was it 410,000? Hey, how about some concessions here? What do you do? We're interested in keeping in
all your visitors.
communications with our communities in San Mateo, and have you thought about this? You might even, I tell you what, you do it, we'll pay you. And you may get that, so who knows?
Great idea.
Were there other questions that you had for us on this topic?
Yeah, the last one is, how can we invest in training that builds a future-ready workforce capable of managing complex, multi-hazard crises? So basically, how can we come together as a group and have training so that city staff, town staff, county staff are ready to handle the emergencies or disasters that we may experience in the future.
I'll be quick in my
TOT.
remarks, but I do understand
Train one, teach one.
that it was important for the
It's a force multiplier.
and that
And obviously, it's almost like succession planning. And not everybody can go at the same time because it's gonna be unbearable. It's just a matter of sending whatever you can, and as many as you can to training, but your job, I mean, the folks who have been trained is to come back and teach others until such as a point then as it's dynamic and fluid, it changes, and then they can go to training. But
an invitation for our board to take an
that's one of the
understand
first
again,
ones I think.
our inclusion in SB 63.
How are the cities tackling this?
And
I haven't heard any discussion of it at all yet, so, yeah, I'm just,
what our
maybe
red
it's not quite an issue yet, maybe, I mean,
left and
I'm not in those discussions, so I can't really say.
all of our regional.
But I mean, obviously, we need to each talk to our cities, fire and police and understand how they're doing their training. I mean, I know some things are specific to each city, but there's a lot of cross training, right? And maybe cities can, I don't know, take a month, right? One city is doing training and other cities doing, so that you catch people at different times and we're not all, replicating our resources every time. I don't know, maybe there's some ways across, and then there's obviously probably some specialized training that to understand,
Well,
your own particular city. But
I agree with you, Christine, and that's actually a good question. We as council generally do not try to interfere with the aspects of training, especially for staff. We assume the city manager is doing that, but the individual departments, I can tell you, police, you have post. The sheriffs has their own training as well. And I leave it within internally for them to decide what is best. Somebody like me, I was working on patrol, but they wouldn't let me go to a 2-week detective course because I'm not an inspector. Okay, I get it, but some did, and they get the upper advantage. And when it comes to promotional, then they can pass the test. But what I'm getting at is if you don't take any training is based on the type of training, and if you don't use it, it becomes a perishable skill. And like hazmat, it's ongoing training that's also important. Somebody who's aspiring to be hazmat doesn't necessarily have to be fire. From what my understanding is, usually hazmat and those who put on the suits are fire folks. Well, in the police department, we used to do it also, and I tell you, if you only knew how uncomfortable those suits are, I mean,
so I want
after about 7 minutes, now get me out of
kind
here.
of mind
And so training is perishable, it's specific, and I see where you're going, but
have a
think
solution
about
before. We have
force multiplying.
it's not perfect.
Yeah, I don't know how you do, whether you, when meeting with the city managers, or you said you meet monthly with the police, a police representative, fire representative, to more bring that to them. I mean, also every community has to have by state law, a disaster council. We're going to be meeting, which it's not a large meeting, it's the two chiefs, the city manager and the mayor. Which is requirement, has to be done at least annually, can be done more, but sometimes maybe those are another opportunity or topic to say, hey, when your city or town has it, this is a topic we need to ask or get some feedback. But I'm thinking back to when we had at the Rock an exercise which everybody was a part of, but it was from Train, Samtrans, BART. It was a reenactment if there was a disaster in the BART tunnel or the railroad, and then everybody trying to facilitate and actually do logistics, medical, etc. I think those are positive to bring every facet of it together, because let's be honest, or I can be honest, is that sometimes it's like, is the power off to the train, the BART, or is it not? And there's not always a yes or no. It's, well, yeah, well, are you sure? Well, not sure. So what's the protocol? What's the process? And just the training alone, I think, is what's critical for folks, because when the power's not
But
off,
that being said,
you can't really have fire personnel going down to the track.
our-
So anyway, I just think having everybody train in uniformity would be helpful.
night.
But I know that's easier said than done. That's a lot of work and a lot of time. And I get that where our resources are limited.
Countywide, there's a lot of energy around this. And so.
And I guess, I mean, hazmat and training and
the voters
emergency
deserve to have
services
actually
personnel.
Will.
I don't know, maybe there's a little bit of that in the cities, but that's more at the county level, right? But
I wanna
The
thank
hazmat team does train and they do
especially
send
staff
people to
who have
training,
had
and that
to
is part
have
of the contract that I mentioned earlier.
Uh-huh.
The money, like we collectively pay for
right,
that.
right.
And so they
But-
do a lot of
But is,
training.
the training still available, I guess, with?
Yeah, so that's the
Okay.
question, is that now will the training, do we need to go send our folks to Alabama or some other place far away for training when the training used to come to us
I see, okay.
or closer to us?
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, but.
Is there-
Did you need any more feedback from us at this time on that topic?
So, thank you.
That is all the questions we have for now.
Thank you, appreciate it. Let's go to report outs related to Emergency Services Council. Is there any from any of us at this time? If there's not, and I want to be mindful, I realize we're getting to the 4 o'clock hour and traffic coming back, especially for you two, is I don't want it any worse. So with that, unless there's anything else, Trudy, then I'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting, and I will text Lisa that she doesn't need to rush over.
Okay.
Thank you so much for chairing, appreciate it.
Oh no, thank you everybody for being there. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. I missed you, man.
Yeah,
Big fan.
enjoy.
All right.
Created an environment where
Um,
the sky is falling.